Inside eBongweni Maximum Correctional Center, South Africa's most notorious criminals are locked away. We begin with the Ndimande brothers, two men accused of being behind one of the most shocking assassinations in South Africa. For a long time, Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande were not widely known to the public. They did not live the kind of high-profile lives that draw attention. But according to investigators, behind that low profile was something far more dangerous: alleged involvement in a growing network of organized and violent crime. But everything changed on the night of February 10th, 2023. That night, South Africa was shaken by the murder of AKA, one of the country's biggest music stars, alongside his close friend, Tabelo Tibbs Motsone. The two men were standing outside a popular restaurant on Florida Road in Durban. It looked like an ordinary moment, a brief stop before heading out. Then, within seconds, everything changed. CCTV footage later showed two armed men approaching the group. There was no argument, no warning. Just a sudden, calculated attack. Shots were fired at close range. The gunmen then walked away, disappearing into the night. The speed, coordination, and precision of the attack immediately raised one chilling question. This didn't look random, it was a hit. As public pressure mounted, South African authorities launched an intensive investigation. What they began uncovering pointed towards something far more complex than a simple shooting. Investigators started piecing together a timeline, tracking movements, communications, and possible links between suspects. Slowly, a picture began to form. According to authorities, it was believed to be a coordinated operation involving multiple people, each playing a role in the planning and execution. And as the investigation deepened, the names of the Ndimande brothers began to surface. Law enforcement agencies allege that Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande were key figures connected to this operation. Their alleged roles placed them at the center of one of the most high-profile murder cases in the country. But just as the investigation was gaining momentum, the brothers were no longer within reach. They had fled South Africa. Reports later confirmed that they had crossed into Eswatini, setting off an international manhunt. Their escape added another layer of complexity to the case, turning it from a national investigation into a cross-border pursuit. Authorities now had to work through legal channels, coordinating with international agencies to secure their return. What followed was a tense extradition process. Eventually, the breakthrough came. Under heavy security, the Ndimande brothers were extradited back to South Africa. Their return marked a major development in the case, bringing investigators one step closer to answering the many questions surrounding the assassination. When they appeared in court, the scale of the allegations became clear. They were facing multiple serious charges, including murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, possession of illegal firearms, and links to organized crime activity. Today, the Ndimande brothers remain at the center of an ongoing case that continues to capture national attention. A case that goes beyond the death of a celebrity. As the case intensified, the Ndimande brothers were transferred under heavy security to eBongweni Maximum Correctional Center, where they are now held among South Africa's most dangerous inmates. Because this is not just a story about one crime, it's a story about a network, a plan, and a level of violence that shocked an entire country. Number 2. Ananias Mathe, a man whose name became feared across South Africa for escaping from one of the most secure prisons in the country. Before he became a national headline, Ananias Mathe was already living a life of violent crime. Originally from Mozambique, who arrived in South Africa in 1999, Mathe almost immediately began a reign of terror, carrying out a series of brutal home invasions. His method was calculated and chilling. He would often poison dogs guarding homes, break in at night, and confront victims while armed. At first, his crimes focused on robbery, breaking into houses and stealing valuables. But over time, his actions escalated into something far more disturbing. He began targeting victims inside their own homes, committing violent assaults, including rape, while using weapons to control and terrorize them. Authorities later linked him to dozens of charges, including rape, attempted murder, armed robbery, and housebreaking. By the time he was arrested in 2006, he was already considered one of the most dangerous criminals operating in the country. Because of this, he was placed under maximum security conditions inside C-Max prison in Pretoria, a facility designed to hold the most high-risk offenders. The assumption was simple: no one escapes from C-Max. But Ananias Mathe would prove that assumption wrong. In November 2006, he carried out one of the most shocking prison escapes in South African history. Mathe managed to squeeze through a tiny window in his cell, a space so small many believed it was impossible. Some reports claimed he used petroleum jelly to slip through, earning him the nickname the Houdini. A high-risk, violent offender had just escaped from one of the most secure prisons in the country. The nation reacted immediately. A massive manhunt was launched. Police, intelligence units, and private security companies were all mobilized. His escape exposed serious weaknesses in the prison system and triggered fear across the country. For about 2 weeks, Mathe managed to stay on the run. During that time, he continued committing crimes, including hijacking vehicles as he tried to evade capture. But his freedom didn't last. He was eventually tracked down after hijacking a car fitted with a tracking device. Police located him, and after a chase, he was shot and recaptured. This time, there would be no mistakes. After his arrest, Mathe faced trial, where the full extent of his crimes became clear. He was found guilty on dozens of charges and sentenced to more than 50 years in prison. Because of his history, not just the violence, but the escape, he was classified as an extremely dangerous inmate and transferred to higher security facility in Kokstad, widely known as eBongweni Supermaximum Correctional Center. Even there, he continued trying to escape. In 2013, he attempted to break through a wall and later tried again by damaging his cell window, but this time, he failed. Security around him remained tight. He was constantly monitored, a prisoner authorities could never afford to underestimate. Then, years later, his story came to an unexpected end. In December 2016, after months of health complications, Ananias Mathe was taken to hospital under heavy guard. At first, officials were suspicious. Some believed it could be another escape attempt, but this time, it wasn't. He died in hospital on December 27, 2016, due to complications related to illness. And just like that, the story of one of South Africa's most notorious criminals came to an end. A man remembered not only for his violent crimes, but for the moment he did the unthinkable and escaped from a place designed to make that impossible. Number 3. Sibusiso Mzimela. A man who turned prison escapes into his signature crime, earning a terrifying reputation across South Africa. From the moment he was first arrested, Mzimela stood out. He was violent, resourceful, and unpredictable, the kind of criminal authorities knew they could never take lightly. He was involved in armed hijackings, violent robberies, and confrontations with police. But what truly made him infamous wasn't just his crimes on the streets, it was what he did behind bars. Because Sibusiso Mzimela had a rare and dangerous ability. He escaped custody repeatedly. Reports indicate he managed to escape at least 9 times, each one more daring than the last. One of his most notorious periods came after an escape when he launched a wave of vehicle hijackings in the Newcastle area, holding victims at gunpoint before vanishing again. It wasn't just crime, it was a cat-and-mouse game, and for a time, Mzimela seemed untouchable. With every escape and recapture, his legend grew. The media called him the Escape King, a man who could slip through even the tightest security. Eventually, authorities realized he could not be held in ordinary facilities. His violent history and repeated escapes led to his transfer to eBongweni Supermaximum Correctional Center, where the country's most notorious inmates are kept under extreme security. What makes his story so chilling isn't just the crimes, it's his relentless defiance of the system. Because Sibusiso Mzimela wasn't just a criminal who broke the law. He was a man who kept breaking out again and again, proving that some offenders are nearly impossible to contain. Like the video and subscribe for more South African true crime series like this. Stay tuned.